Hello, welcome to my secret obsession. I'm Cherish Lively, and today I'm reading the first chapter of Brooding Heart by Sherry Abb. So, get cozy, turn up the volume, and let's read a book. Brooding Heart by Sherry Abb. Chapter 1. Emma. The plane dips through a cloud, and my stomach drops right along with it. I don't know if it's turbulence, or the realization that I've actually done it. Packed up like the divorce never happened and fled to Mexico. Beside me, Rachel flips through the in-flight magazine with the air of someone who's never had a single difficult day in her life, as she whistles under her breath, rather joyfully, much to my annoyance. Now that I think of it, her skin looks so very dewy, like she's coming out of a vacation rather than going into one. Meanwhile, I'm white-knuckling the armrests like my life depends on it. I wasted my youth on that man. I think to myself in anger, what do I have to show for it? 44 years old, divorced, no children, and apparently having an in-flight existential crisis. This vacation is off to a stellar start. You look like you're mentally drafting your memoir, Rachel says, not looking up from an article about some overwater bungalows in Bora Bora. Relax, will you? Well, I have a lot to say, I say grumpily, as I try to contain the wedge forming in my throat from turning into tears. Once upon a time, it was Richard and I who made plans for Tulum. Someday, he had promised. Instead, he didn't even glance in my direction when we walked out after finalizing our divorce. Didn't even wish me well. He treated me like I was less than the dirt beneath his shoes, and I gave him 20 years. I'm sure you do, Rachel says softly, casting the magazine aside to give my hand a warm squeeze. I immediately feel relaxed. This vacation will be good for you, you know? I release the armrest and flex my cramped fingers. I'm not sure about that. Every time I try to have a little fun, something always goes wrong. Probably a tropical storm this time, or who knows what else. Rachel snorts. Her blonde hair is pulled into a messy bun that somehow looks purposeful, rather than like she just rolled out of bed, which is exactly how my similar attempts always end up. It's not some grand sabotage. That was just Richard. At the mention of my ex-husband's name, I feel my throat tighten again. Even with the divorce settled, his name still curls up behind my ribs and squeezes. It's not that I have feelings for him or anything. It's the simple fact that he cheated on me. I filed for divorce when I found out, and his ego was too damn big to sign the papers when I asked 2 years ago. I'm not crying. Not really. My eyes are just reacting to cold, plain air and ancient emotional trauma. That's all. Rachel doesn't buy it, of course. You do realize you're about to cry over a man who eats boiled chicken with no seasoning, she says loud enough for the woman across the aisle to glance over. I sniff, a little dramatically. He used garlic salt, sometimes. Really? Rachel furrows her brows. I don't remember. Does it matter? I look at her incredulously, my brows now sky high. Exactly. She smirks, like she got me to say what she wanted to hear all along. It doesn't. Now, cheer up for this vacation. You do realize it's better to cry into a handkerchief while staring into the horizon, rather than looking up at your ceiling. My ceiling is beautiful, I say. It's very textured. It's taupe, she snorts. It's moonlight dancing, I whisper, somewhat shamefully. It's very beautiful. You named your ceiling paint? Now I'm really worried about you. I didn't name it. Benjamin Moore named it, I protest, feeling a little defensive. Emma. Rachel takes my hand, her expression shifting to that particular blend of exasperation and affection she's perfected over our 3 decades of friendship. How are you feeling? Actually feeling. How do you think I'm feeling? I counter, my voice catching embarrassingly. I just spent 2 years of my life and most of my savings on divorce proceedings that should have taken 6 months. All because Richard couldn't bear the thought of me being the one to end things. Rachel sighs and gently squeezes my hand. Be easy on yourself. Richard is a difficult man. That's why you left him. Remember? I do remember. I remember the exact moment I knew my 20-year marriage was over. It wasn't during one of our spectacular arguments, or after a particularly cutting remark. It was a Tuesday evening, and Richard was explaining, in excruciating detail, why my method of loading the dishwasher was fundamentally flawed. I remember looking at him, this man I'd shared a bed with for 2 decades, and feeling nothing but a vast, echoing emptiness. Not anger, not sadness, just nothing. He dragged it out for so long, I say, staring at the seat back in front of me where someone has left a wadded-up tissue in the pocket. Charming. 2 years of meetings and mediations and counter-offers, just because he was angry that I wanted out. And then he fell in love with Pilates Patty, and suddenly couldn't sign those papers fast enough. Rachel adds with undisguised contempt. Only after he proposed to her, I correct. Couldn't have his new fiancée finding out he was technically still married. The memory still stings. Not because I want him back. No chance of that, no. But because of the stark difference between how he'd fought to keep me legally tethered to him, and then how quickly he discarded me once something shinier came along. Well, Rachel says, reaching into her purse and pulling out a tiny bottle of tequila she'd clearly smuggled past security. Here's to Richard, being someone else's problem now. You can't open that on the plane, I hiss, even as she unscrews the cap. Watch me. She takes a quick swig and passes it to me. To your new beginning. I hesitate for only a second before accepting it. The tequila burns pleasantly going down, and I feel a small rebellious thrill. To my new beginning, I echo. The captain's voice crackles over the intercom announcing our descent into Cancun International Airport. Rachel claims the contraband bottle, securing it back in her purse with a wink. The Caribbean sprawls below us, a vast expanse of turquoise that seems almost artificially vibrant, too perfect. My breath catches. Something warm and unexpected unfurls in my chest. Hope, maybe? Or perhaps just relief to be somewhere this beautiful, with my best friend, when the alternative was crying myself to sleep in the bed I once shared with Richard. Oh, I breathe. Rachel leans across me to look out the window. See? Already better than your ceiling. As we step onto the tarmac, my shoulders drop half an inch as I see the glorious, clear skies above and the sunlight lapping at my skin. I can breathe here. I can start again. Rachel stretches dramatically. Told you, the beach cures everything. Sun, salt water, and fresh men. Maybe I'm more of a mountain girl, I say, just to protest. I'd protested so much by this point that I now felt loyal to my previous stance. Silly, I know. Lies, she grins. You're already glowing. You were meant to be barefoot and 3 cocktails deep. By the time we climb into our prearranged taxi, I'm sweating through my sensible linen shirt and once again questioning my life choices. But then we're driving with the windows down, and the heavy tropical air washes over us. Palm trees line the highway, swaying in the breeze, like they're dancing to music. I close my eyes and let the warmth settle into my bones, thawing the cold that had settled into my heart and causing me to feel mildly excited. Tulum is magical, Rachel says beside me. You'll see. An hour later, our taxi pulls up to a modest sign reading Casa del Mar in weathered blue letters. Behind it sits what looks like someone's very lovely, very large beach house rather than a hotel. The structure is 2 stories of whitewashed stucco with blue shutters and a terracotta roof. Bougainvillea spills over the entrance in a riot of pink, and I can hear the rhythmic crash of the waves just beyond. This is it? I ask, oddly charmed by its unassuming presence. A boutique bed and breakfast? Rachel confirms, already hauling her suitcase from the trunk. 12 rooms, private beach access, and homemade pastries every morning. Way better than those soulless all-inclusives. I follow her lead and grab my suitcase. The air smells of salt, flowers, and something tantalizingly delicious. My stomach growls in response, reminding me that airplane pretzels do not constitute a meal. We wheel our luggage through an archway of flowers into a small courtyard with a tinkling fountain at its center. The reception area is just ahead, a wooden desk beneath a ceiling fan that turns lazily, stirring the warm air. No one's at the desk, but a bell sits invitingly on its surface. Rachel taps it with perhaps more enthusiasm than necessary, and the clear ping echoes through the quiet space. "Coming!" calls a male voice from somewhere behind the beaded curtain. The curtain parts, and a young man emerges, wiping his hands on a towel. "Welcome to Casa del Mar. Checking in?" "Yes. Reservation for Hastings and Bloom," Rachel says brightly. The man, boy really, he can't be more than 20, smiles and turns to the computer on the desk. His fingers hover over the keyboard for a moment before his smile falters. "Hastings and Bloom. I don't see." "We booked 3 weeks ago," Rachel says as a familiar knot of tension forms between my shoulder blades. 2 garden view rooms for 2 weeks. He clicks and scrolls, his forehead creasing. "I'm sorry, senoras. I'm not seeing your reservation. Let me call the owner." He picks up a phone and has a brief conversation in rapid Spanish that I have no hope of following, despite my Duolingo streak of 47 days that I maintained purely out of spite after Richard said I would never stick with it. "Senor Marquez will be right with you," the young man says, looking relieved to pass this problem to someone else. Rachel shoots me a look that says, "Don't start," which is entirely unfair because I haven't even begun to express my displeasure. A door behind the desk swings open, and a man strides in, his presence immediately filling the modest space. He's tall and broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair that looks like it's been tousled by the sea breeze. His olive skin is sun-kissed, and he has the kind of lines around his eyes that speak of laughter and a life of adventure. He's wearing a simple linen shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms dusted with dark hair. Oh no, he's handsome. I wasn't prepared for handsome. "Good afternoon, ladies. I'm Alejandro Marquez, the owner. Carlos tells me that there might be an issue with your reservation." His English is perfect, but colored with an accent that wraps around each word like warm caramel. I clear my throat. "Yes, we booked a room for 3 weeks ago, but apparently it has vanished into the Bermuda Triangle of your booking system." I note that he doesn't smile. His facial features remain perfectly intact, as though he hasn't heard of the word joke. "Let me take a look," he says, springing into some serious action as he slides behind the computer, and Carlos gratefully retreats through the beaded curtain. Alejandro's fingers move over the keyboard, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Hastings and Bloom, you said?" "Yes, Emma Hastings and Rachel Bloom," I supply, trying not to notice how his hands are both strong and elegant. I've always had a thing for nice hands. It's becoming problematic. He mutters something under his breath and clicks a few more times. "I'm not seeing..." Wait. He leans closer to the screen, squinting. "Here's something. Hastings and Bloom, but it shows it was canceled 2 weeks ago." "Canceled?" Rachel and I say in unison. "We did not cancel," I add firmly. Alejandro runs a hand through his hair, making it stand up slightly in a way that's irritatingly attractive. "The system shows it was canceled through your booking agent." "That's impossible," Rachel says. "We confirmed everything last week." Alejandro looks genuinely troubled, which softens my irritation somewhat. "Let me check something else." He taps at the keyboard with increasing frustration and then sighs. This computer, it's not always cooperative. He picks up the phone again and has another Spanish conversation, this one punctuated with what I assume are colorful expressions based on the way his voice drops to ensure we don't understand. When he hangs up, he looks at us apologetically. I'm very sorry for the inconvenience. My system is temperamental. He gestures vaguely at the computer like it's a misbehaving child, but I do have a solution. We have our best suite available, the Ocean View Suite. It has 2 bedrooms, a shared living area, and a private terrace overlooking the water. I can offer it to you for the same price you were going to pay for the 2 garden views. I open my mouth to argue, not because it's a bad offer, but because I'm still annoyed about the mix-up. But Rachel cuts me off. That's very generous, thank you, she says, subtly elbowing me in the ribs. I force a smile. Yes, thank you. But you really should get your tech fixed. It's the 21st century. He frowns. Technology and I have a complicated relationship. Clearly, I mutter. Before he can respond, the front door bangs open, and 2 burly men struggle to get in, carrying what appears to be an enormous wooden table. They call out something in Spanish, and Alejandro's head snaps up. Careful with that, he calls back, abandoning the computer to rush over and help them navigate the awkward piece of furniture through the doorway. Rachel and I watch as he positions himself at one end of the table, muscles visibly straining under his linen shirt as he helps guide it through the courtyard toward what must be the garden. Well, Rachel murmurs, leaning close to my ear, he's certainly handsome and handy. I roll my eyes. Don't start. I'm just making an observation about his hands-on approach to management, she says innocently. Very involved. I narrow my eyes on her. I know what you're doing, and it's not going to work. I'm here to relax and regroup, not to have a Mexican vacation fling. Who said anything about a fling? Rachel's eyebrows rise in feigned surprise. I certainly didn't mention anything of the sort. You're unbelievable. You know that? I hiss under my breath, even as I keep my eyes on Alejandro. There's something about him. I just can't look away. And you're blushing, she notes dryly. I'm saved from responding by the arrival of another man through the front door. He's younger than Alejandro, with the same olive complexion, but a leaner build and sharper features. He strides purposely to the desk, ignoring us completely, and begins typing on the computer. Alejandro returns, slightly out of breath, and stops short when he sees the newcomer. Marco, what are you doing? Marco doesn't look up. Fixing your mess, as usual, brother. You managed to crash the reservation system again. I did not crash anything, Alejandro says, his voice tight. And these ladies are checking in. Could you perhaps greet them before taking over my desk? Marco finally glances our way, offering a perfunctory nod before returning to the screen. Give me 5 minutes and I'll have their reservation sorted. It's already sorted, Alejandro says. I've offered them the Ocean Suite. Marco's fingers pause over the keyboard. The Ocean Suite? For the price of the 2 garden rooms? Alejandro, we discussed this. You can't keep giving away our premium. It was my decision to make. Alejandro cuts him off, a muscle ticking in his jaw. The tension between them crackles like static electricity. Rachel and I exchange glances, caught in the crossfire of what is clearly a long-standing fraternal dispute. Ladies, Alejandro says, turning back to us, with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. Please excuse us. My brother Marco helps with the technical aspects of our business, but sometimes he forgets his manners. Marco snorts, but continues typing. And my brother sometimes forgets this is a business, not a charity. Rachel clears her throat. Well, we appreciate the suite upgrade. Very hospitable. See? Alejandro gestures triumphantly. Hospitality, the foundation of our industry. Profit margins, Marco counters without looking up. the foundation of staying in our industry. I bite my lip to keep from laughing. There's something oddly comforting about watching these grown men bicker like children. It reminds me of my own brothers, forever arguing over everything from who gets the last slice of pizza to who has to clean the dishes after dinner, as if the world would end if one of them had to deal with a little soap and water. Success, Marco announces suddenly, triumphantly tapping the final key. System restored, and I've logged your reservation for the ocean suite. He finally looks at us properly, his expression softening. Welcome to Casa del Mar. My brother may be terrible with computers, but he does make an excellent breakfast. The cinnamon rolls alone are worth the trip. Alejandro's expression is a fascinating mix of annoyance and reluctant affection. Thank you for your endorsement. Now perhaps you could return to your own hotel and leave me to run mine. Our family's hotel, Marco corrects smoothly, standing and relinquishing the chair. I'm bored, though. Lazy day. What if I stick around? The way Alejandro glowers tells me that Marco is his Rachel. I have to try very hard to hold back a laugh when Marco does what he wants anyway, no matter how clear Alejandro makes it that he is not needed around here. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Your time and attention are truly appreciated. If audiobooks are your thing, you can listen to full novels on My Secret Obsession at Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, and Apple. If you enjoyed this reading, please follow, subscribe, or give a thumbs up. Your support means everything to me. Until we meet again, goodbye and happy reading.